So I'm having to do some work on my cat motor, and I thought I would give you guys some tips on putting all this back together. First tip is to block off everything to make sure nothing gets in there like a bird. Tape would probably work better than this, but this will suffice. Tip number 2 is to put up your antifreeze because a dog could come along and drink that. Tip number 3, if you're going to reuse the antifreeze like I'm going to do, cover it up. Tip 4, make sure you use a funnel with a good screen in it when you do refill. Tip 5, make sure you replace all the gaskets when you put this back together. Now with cat, most of it's going to be O-rings or like press-in seals. Tip 6, clean up the surfaces before you mount up the parts where there's seals. And I do that with some 240 grit sandpaper. Tip 7, now's a good time to paint parts if you want to, dress up the motor a little. And plus it'll help against corrosion, especially if the part is steel. Now this thermostat housing, it's aluminum, and this water pump elbow is aluminum too, but we're still going to paint this. Tip 8, small parts like these, go ahead and replace them. Now this is actually pretty expensive, and it's been replaced recently, so we're just going to leave this. Tip 9, be very careful with these exhaust bellows. These things are expensive. Tip 10, look up the torque recommendations for cat. They just go off the bolt size, M8, M10, M12. Just take the time to look up that stuff. Tip 11, and this is a big one. Be sure you lay out the parts in the order you took them off. So this was the first part I took off, second, third, fourth, and so on. Tip 12, and this is another really big one. Take pictures as you're taking the stuff apart so you remember how all this goes back together, because this tubing can get really confusing, especially on a twin turbo engine. Tip 13, take your time, and if you get frustrated, take a break or move on to something else, because usually you can do 2 or 3 things at the same time. Tip 14, and I don't like this one, but you got to know when you're in over your head and just take it to somewhere that's qualified to work on your equipment. Tip 15, shop around for parts. This exhaust bellow is bad. Believe it or not, it's $350 from Cat, but I could get it for half that price online, but then I'm going to have to wait a week, and I'm not willing to do that. I need to get the truck up and running and make some money. Tip 16, print out schematics or diagrams of these parts. I can get all mine from Cat on their website. All I have to do is put in my serial number and just look up parts. Like right here, here's the coolant diverter, there's the oil cooler. I can find all my gaskets right here. See, there's the numbers, and then the next page is part numbers.